People need an income that's guaranteed to them.
If you lose money to taxes, you're never getting that money back.
You need to get serious about adding some lower risk.
Greed. I don't like greed.
The thing to be afraid of, honestly, is the thing that we're not thinking of, the black swan event.
There's a tsunami coming. Bye.
Welcome to Retirement Coffee Talk with Charisse Rivers.
Just coffee talk.
There's a lot of noise, a lot of chatter. Who do you listen to? Who do you not listen to? You have to stay focused.
A fun and informative look at the issues of wealth, retirement, and protecting your life savings.
These advisors out there that were trained to sell, and have all these fees. They don't want to talk about this product, so they make less money.
And now, Retirement Coffee Talk with Charisse Rivers.
Welcome back to Retirement Coffee Talk with Charisse Rivers at Zinnia Wealth. My name is Randy Cook. Each week, I sit down here with Charisse and we go through some of the things that she's been seeing out there when people come to her and ask for help about their retirements. And we kind of bring those things up on the radio here. Maybe they're the same things that you're going through, but here we've changed the calendar on a new year. You're that much closer to retirement. It's time to get down to business on that. So we'll talk a little bit about that as we go through the show. Charisse, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I, for the holidays, took the kids snowboarding, and I want to let everybody know that I've been working a whole year on my back so I could do that big hike in Canada and so I can snowboard with my kids because I couldn't do any of this last year. And I succeeded. I did not fall at all when I was snowboarding, and I felt like I was 16 again. It felt so good. I'm coming back injury-free, but I came back with a cold. I know. So we had a nice holiday, just the entire family. It's just, it's nice. A fun thing to do to just get away from sometimes Florida and get in the snow a little bit. So that was great.
And you went to North Carolina, you said, because I lived in Charlotte for a couple of years, and I know that there are some mountains in North Carolina.
Yeah,
and
it's
it was
crazy.
Yeah.
You know, I wanted to go to Lake Tahoe, but based on how the kids and where my sister and everything was going on, we needed a quick, fast, convenient trip since my sister lives in North Carolina. So we went to Beach Mountain. This is the second time I've done this, and every time I go, I bring the snowstorm, and it's beautiful snow. I'm telling you, I love Beach Mountain. Like, now I'm a fan.
Nice.
And I always heard, it's going to be icy, and no, not when I show up.
Yeah, my son, that was the big news over the Christmas holiday, was he said, I'm moving. And I said, okay, where are you going? I'm moving to outside of Raleigh, North Carolina. And I said, okay. In a little town called Cameron. And so I'm looking it up on the map, and it's 45 minutes from Pinehurst. It's about a half an hour from Tobacco Road. I said, I think I'll be coming to see you, son, because there's a lot of really good golf in North Carolina.
Very good golf. Very cool.
So anyway, so we've got a big event coming up not too long from now on January the 30th. We've been talking about it a lot, the Ocala Leadership Conference. This is a gathering of some of the people that you admire the most who've been helping you being a mentor and learn how to be a great boss, be a great employee, and you're putting them all together for an event on January the 30th. Tell me a little bit more what's going on.
Yeah, so live and in person, we have John Maxwell, the #1 leadership coach in the country, coming to speak to you all. We have Ryan Lake also. He's an up-and-comer, and both John and Ryan are my mentors. We have John Gordon. He wrote The Energy Bus. He's not my mentor yet, but he's just, I feel like he saves offices every day and people with positivity and gratitude. And we have many, many other amazing speakers coming, and it's going to be a day full of energizing. If you're working for somebody or if you're an employer, it's going to really meet all your needs to step up leadership across the board and stack it up a little bit. So we're really looking forward to that January 30th. And we decided to extend our ticket discount. So if you go to ocalaleadershipconference.com and type in Coffee Talk, you will get a massive discount off your ticket. And if you're worried about your New Year's resolutions, I don't know, what is it, day 13 or 15 or 17? People usually stop their New Year's resolutions. Don't try to push it on till you get to this event January 30th, because it'll get you powered up and ready probably for another month of pushing that New Year's resolution.
So I'm at the website right now, and if you go through where it says get tickets and you click on that, you'll be on your way, and you can enter a code right up at the top there. And the code that we have is Coffee Talk, right? So you put Coffee Talk in there, and that'll get you a discount on your tickets. So that'll continue on. January 30th is the date, and we'll be talking more about that as we get closer to the event.
Yeah, and Randy, my mentor asked me a couple days ago, send me your list of New Year's resolutions. I'm like, I don't call them New Year's resolutions. What I call them is my goals.
Yeah.
And there was 19 of them. He went, oh my gosh. He's like, you will accomplish every single one of these. I'm like, you better bet I will. And, and last year, 2025, my goal was to go on a mission trip with Tim Tebow's team to Guatemala. Check. Got it done. My goal was to start a mentorship with John Maxwell. Check. Ryan Leake wasn't on my list, but I got it. You name it. Taking my sister to Puerto Rico for a sister trip. That was amazing. The kids, my goal was to hit the beach 4 times, surfing with them. Check. Got that done. And to make sure my back was ready for the big mountain climb in Canada. Check. That was done. And snowboarding. Check. And growing our staff here at Zinnia Wealth and the leadership here. The Grilled Cheese Foundation, being able to help 20 kids. Hey, we helped 18, I think. I think there was one that came at the end of the year, so maybe 19. So we're, all my goals usually get hit. So New Year's resolutions, I feel like it's like, okay, we're starting the year, but it always kind of goes away. But when I call it a goal, it gets done. So it's been a busy year.
It
for
has
sure.
been. When you start stacking it up like that, we've been following that all this year. And maybe your big goal this year is to retire, or at least sit down and talk about it and get going on it and make some plans.
Just check it off.
Let's check that off the list here, because, Charisse, last year at this time, and this is predictions and award shows and resolutions and all these different things. This is what happens in the month of January. And last year at this time, you and I were talking about a new president coming in, a guy who has an idea of tariffs, and he was going to use that in the economy. And he's got a lot of different ideas about, the interest rate and the Fed chair and all these different things. So we were looking at that. And we were also saying at this time last year, it's still really good as far as interest rates are concerned for retirees with annuities and CDs and money markets and things like that. Well, that has changed a little bit this year. Interest rates have been going down, and they probably will still continue to go down. I found an article about that saying, hey, is 2026 a good year to retire? And it said, while economic and market conditions should not be the main factor, the main driver of your retirement, they are a factor. So if people are worried that, hey, we've had a great market run, I don't want to retire into a down market. Nobody can guarantee what's going to happen in the future as far as that is concerned. But what would you say to somebody who walks in who's really worried about the market? They saw what happened in Venezuela, and they see what's going on all the time. And there's so many things that could actually make this market go down. It still is resilient. What do you say to somebody like that?
These factors should not be a factor in somebody's life that is in retirement, right? Economic conditions should not dictate whether you're going to get a big fat income check this month or not, right? Or if you're going to run out of money or not, whether these interest rates are up or down, there's war. When you are in retirement, everything is based around, do you have an income plan? Have you checked it twice each and every year with your advisor? Do you have a tax plan? How are we saving in our tax plan? Our investment portfolio, that's third. Like, where are we invested? But at the end of the day, if you have your income plan, your tax plan, everything all jiving together, the portfolio plan is easy. It's not just a 60-40 portfolio. So a lot of people are concerned about all the conditions in the environment and the economy, but you need to protect your own personal economy. And those other elements and factors that happen outside of what we put together should not dictate what your future plan is going to be, because we have it completely dialed in on a very pessimistic rate of return and or plan altogether. So what I want people to do is I want people to turn their TVs off and not worry about it, because your plan is so dialed in here at Zinnia Wealth that you don't have to worry about it. But I know people have a hard time doing that, and you're still going to show on the TV and you're still going to wonder. And that's why you come in for your annual reviews. But more days than not, we have more money in the accounts for our clients than we ever projected based on how we build out our plans and our inflation protection plans and our tax protection plans and just making sure those checks arrive and we're not pulling money out of the stock market when the market goes down because we have other sources of income coming through. So just making sure that your four walls, your roof is protected in retirement, and yours is going to be different than your neighbor Bubba, right? And you can't do what your neighbor's doing. It all depends on, what is your fixed income? Like, do you have Social Security coming in now? Do you have a pension? Do you have rentals? And then what is your expenses, your liabilities? Do you have a mortgage still? Do you have a car payment? Do you want to spend $10 or $30 or $40,000 a year in travel? So this is why it's going to be different, in making sure that we know where those dollars are coming from to cover the gas at the pump and the food and the light bill and all the travel expenses. And if the market crashes, that the money keeps pouring in without having to worry about running out of money, right? And that's what retirement should be about.
I've heard people say in the past that your retirement's like your castle, and we want to build a moat around your castle, and when you think about it, when people walk in the door, Cherise, when they say, I'm afraid of running out of money, I'm afraid of getting sick in my latter years, I'm afraid of dementia, I'm afraid the taxes will go up, I'm afraid inflation will go up, and you walk into retirement with a whole lot of fear of things that could happen. And what you do, Cherise, is A, make sure people have the income they need to do the things they want, but B, protect their money in all these different ways. Let's protect against market declines. Let's protect against tax increases and not knowing what the tax laws are. Let's protect if, in fact, you do have a health event and have a strategy for all that stuff. And when people walk out of a meeting like that and you've got it down on paper, I got to believe they walk into retirement with a lot more confidence.
Yeah, when you can see the next 30 years on paper. I'm not talking about a diagram that's showing you 7% returns every year or a pretty colorful rainbow platform where it's just, you don't even understand what we're talking about. You're just nodding your head pretending to keep up with the advisor. I'm talking about a well-oiled conversation that goes from A to B to C in the most simplified manner that you can actually understand it. Not just you, but your spouse, right? And that both of you are on the same page. And I just did a review and it was beautiful because I'm looking at the spouse who does not like the finance part, but always comes in for the annual review where we're talking about the income plan, saying, okay, Cherise, I just want to make sure, let me see, I took more out this year than last year. Let's put this into the income fund. The fact that they even know that there's an income plan and they understand it, it is an amazing experience for me because somebody who doesn't want to be part of finance, when they love that part of it, that's what we're doing well for the client. And then we're doing our jobs because even the nonverbal financial speaking spouse can come in and dictate the plan. I think it's a cool thing. And they're fully in, especially if one of the spouses passes away, they've got their eyes on the prize because it's so simple that anybody can figure out what we're doing day to day.
Well, we would love to have that opportunity to have that conversation with you. And that is a no charge, no obligation meeting. What we offer you is something called a portfolio x-ray. And really what it does is you sit down and you say, okay, what have I done to save? Take a look at that number. What do I want to do in retirement? And what's coming in from Social Security? How will we approach, legacy planning and tax planning and all that goes along with it? Get it all locked down. Get it on paper. And when you walk in with a plan, I think you're going to have a whole lot more confidence going through your retirement years. Let's do that. Give Cherise a call. Get an appointment in the new year. Maybe last year you said, yeah, I'm going to do that, and then you never did. Well, here we are a year later. Let's get it done. 833-368-3680. 833-368-3680. Give Cherise a call. Let's get a date on a calendar. You can also use the website, which is zinniawealth.com, ZINNIA wealth.com. There's a gold box there. It says complimentary retirement consultation. And when you click on that, you'll be on your way. Again, 833-368-3680. All right. The buy the dip crowd. You've heard this before. The market goes down and then people rush in with a bunch of cash. They buy low, hoping it'll go back up. Well, that works a lot of times, but does it work all the time? It seems to me like you have become what they refer to as a market timer. And the Wall Street Journal took a deep dive into, does buy the dip work? Cherise, in your estimation, does buy the dip work, and can you be consistent with buy the dip?
So does buying at the dip work? And the thing is, yeah, the buying at the dip does work, but how much do you lose when you sit in cash until you buy at the dip? Because what if the market goes up 10% over the next 6 months? In the summer, there's a dip of 8%. Well, okay, you just lost 2% because you waited, right? So you cannot time buying at the dip. And there's a lot of people that do that. But here's the deal. There's a lot of money in the money market right now. There's a lot of money in CDs. And a lot of people are going to have CDs coming due. They're going to move it to cash, or they'll do short-term CDs 5 or 6 months. And then those dollars will come up. And they might use those dollars to buy later on. Maybe there will be a dip. Maybe there will not be a dip. But there's always this assumption when you have this much money sitting in cash on the sidelines, which is a lot right now, everyone. I'm going to tell you, what ends up happening if interest rates continue to come down, they're not going to like the rate that they're getting at the banks and in the money market. So now they're going to start investing. So yeah, it very well could give us a nice little push, especially towards the end of the year. There's a lot of factors that are dependent on this, but I do not recommend, especially people prepping for retirement, like 5 years retirement, or people in retirement buying at the dip, unless you are doing this as a business and you love doing it and you've timed it right and you've never made mistakes and you know how to do it and you don't take any losses because you miss the growth, right? So we want to stay away from this. I'll be honest with you. And in retirement, here's something I want you all to remember. Get ready. It's my next big phrase for 2026. I want to make your retirement exciting, and I want to make your investments boring. Because I know the non-boring investments like Tesla and Amazon, et cetera, like people get excited about that. Some really great dividend stocks. Listen, if we have a well-oiled plan and we use not just a 60-40 portfolio like a lot of advisory firms do, but we actually have 5 to 7 different buckets doing 5 to 7 different things or similar things here and there, just depending on the economic climate. Listen, I'm making it boring. I mean, 60-40 is still pretty boring, but I guess our investment portfolios are a little less than boring, but I want retirement to be exciting. I want you to be excited about the future. I don't want you turning on the TV. I want you to stay away from the TV because you believe in the income plan we built out. You believe in the tax plan we built out. You believe in the investment portfolio we built out. When you're working and paying an advisor, you are paying for that. You're paying just knowing that, hey, I'm going to go visit the kids. I'm going to go on the cruise and I'm not going to worry about a thing because I know Sharice and Zinnia Wealth Management and the team have it all tackled down and taken care of. And year over year, this is what we do for a living. We want you to have peace of mind, right? And how do you have peace of mind? Well, you see your written income statements every year. You see that something is happening, some sort of transactions. You're seeing movement in your portfolio. Maybe you're seeing us do an exit strategy because the market's starting to go down and we're trying to cover your butt before it drops 20%. Maybe that's the activity that gives you peace of mind. Maybe it's just knowing that your checks are coming from a source that we've created from you that's going to show up every month and you're never going to have to worry about the stock market, right? There's so many things that we can implement, from protecting your long-term care, elder planning time period, if that ever hits you, right? And that will and estate and legacy planning to your heirs. You're like, what is that plan? And the tax plan. If I could save you hundreds of thousands and maybe $1 million or $2 million in taxes over the next 30 years to you, your surviving spouse, and your heirs, that is a percent in return that most advisory firms are not providing you. That's a percent. So making sure that all of those things are dialed in is going to help with the confidence of retirement. There needs to be a strategy. I want you to enjoy your retirement. I want that to be the exciting part and your investment portfolio to be the boring part.
You know, in this article in the Wall Street Journal, when it was talking about this, it brings up, you remember the Matt Damon commercials with crypto, and he got out there. They ran these in the Super Bowl a couple of years ago. Fortune favors the brave. And I remember him saying that. And in the article, it says that's actually not true. Fortune favors the lazy. Is what it says.
Yes.
And so here's the stat on it. It says over the 4 major S&P bear markets. Now, remember, a bear market is when the market goes down 20% and it stays down 20% for at least 90 days.
Right.
Okay. So 4 times that's happened not that long ago. And they said if you follow people who are doing the various buy the dip kind of strategies, they lost 18.4% on average. But if you looked at the people who did it the boring way and put it in and researched what they were doing and let it go, they were up 28.6%. So again, you talk about we want to make your retirement exciting and make your investments boring. This is another really good example of that. And all of the if I said to you, in my retirement, Charisse, I'm going to become a day trader. What do you think? And you'd go, are you out of your mind? And see, in some ways, that's kind of what this is. I'm going to be a buy the dip kind of a guy. And to me, what are you doing? What are you doing here? You made your living in sales. You made your living in construction. You made your living. Why are you thinking now that you're going to become this wheeler dealer when it comes to your investments? I don't get it, Charisse.
Yeah. Well, I kind of get it. I get those people because you're like, you want to do something new.
Okay.
And you might have been with a couple of advisors that didn't do as well, and you think you can do better. And now you have the time, you can do it. And like after you do it for 12 months and you're like, okay, I'm not doing this anymore. Yeah. I have a client that's been doing it for 3 years, and he's finally saying, all right, Charisse, I'm handing it over to you. Like, I don't want to think about this stuff anymore. I win some, I lose some. He's like, your portfolios are averaging more over, a 5-year period. And so now it just takes time. People just have to learn or just get tired of it. And we're here for you.
I had a friend who lasted 3 months.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I'm going to be a day trader. I go, really? He goes, yeah, all I have to do is I have to make $300 a day. That's all I have to do. He couldn't do it.
Well, he might have been newer at it too.
He couldn't do it.
There's a way to do it if you really work hard at it.
Probably so. In any event, that is one thing that we say on this show regularly, that what is going on with you, that your whole life you just packed money away, which is what you were supposed to do, and now you get to retirement. You're going to be your own financial advisor? Why don't you turn that over to somebody who does it every day and does it not for just one retirement, but does it for hundreds of retirements? That's what Charisse does. And that's why we say it's so important to have somebody who's in the retirement space, because there's a difference between being an investment advisor and being a retirement planner. Those are two different things, aren't they, Charisse? Because you go to your stockbroker and say, hey, can you help me with my Medicare? That's not happening, is it?
Well, that's the difference between the stock jock, a financial advisor, and then the retirement advisor, the retirement planner. There's 3 of us out there.
Yeah.
And the stock jock gets you to retirement, the accumulation phase, but then who's going to get you through the decumulation phase where you're living on your money, the preservation phase, and that's the retirement planner. Like when I'll just pick out somebody, Fisher Investments, they say they do retirement planning, but they don't. They're still the stock jock. They're not doing anything else. And it's just a 60-40 portfolio. So you guys get to choose who you want. If somebody's going to charge you 1%, whether it's Fisher, me, somebody else in the neighborhood, but they're not offering all the retirement build out like we do, that's when you get to shop. This is your choice. This is your time to enjoy the last 30 years of your life. Who do you want taking care of you? Somebody that just knows the portfolio stuff, or somebody who knows the Medicare stuff, the Social Security stuff, the elder planning stuff, the investment stuff, the portfolio stuff? That's what we do. And I decided to build that out years ago because I just thought, retirees deserve more. And I learned from some other big gurus in the country that do it just like me. Thankfully, I followed suit and we love it. And we feel good about it every day. We know we're helping people throughout this phase of life and we're not skipping a beat.
If you'd like to have that kind of a meeting, give Charisse a call. Let's get that on the calendar for the new year here. 833-368-3680. Again, 833-368-3680, or use the website, pretty easy, ZinniaWealth.com, ZINNIA Wealth.com, and you'll see a big gold box there. It says complimentary retirement consultation. That's exactly what it is. It's a free meeting to sit down and talk about your retirement. Again, ZinniaWealth.com. All right, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, what people want to know in retirement is how much money do I need and what am I going to spend it on? We got a breakdown for you coming up in just a couple of minutes here. We'll also talk a little bit about conversions in 2026 as far as taxes are concerned. We also have a woman who said, I made the worst retirement decision of my life. What was it? We'll tell you, and we'll help you avoid it coming up next on Retirement Coffee Talk.
You're working hard every day trying to move up and get better. Whether you're an employee or employer, you're looking for that spark, that mentor to help you to your next level of success. You're invited to the Ocala Leadership Conference Friday, January 30th at Meadowbrook in Ocala. You'll hear in person from some of the top leadership experts and speakers in the country. John Maxwell, Ryan Leake, John Gordon, and more. Learn how some of the most successful CEOs improve their decision-making, how to find, develop, and retain talented employees, and boost morale, leading to more productivity and profitability, and the opportunity to network with them and other leaders in our community. Friday, January 30th at Meadowbrook in Ocala. Tickets are on sale now and going fast. Use the code COFFEETALK and get $100 off your ticket price. Invest in yourself, invest in your future. Go to OcalaLeadershipConference.com.
And welcome back to Retirement Coffee Talk with Sharice Rivers at Zinnia Wealth. Online, ZinniaWealth.com, ZINNIA Wealth.com. Check out the website today. There's so much to go through. On the top navigation bar up there, you'll see a tab that says Education. And when you click on that, there'll be a little drop down and it says Useful Guides. Click on that because there is so much there. It's like going into a library in there. And you're going to find things that you can download about Social Security and Medicare and women in retirement and pensions and 401ks. There's just tons in there about retirement topics. So check that out today on our website, ZinniaWealth.com. All right, how much money are you going to spend in retirement? How much do I need in retirement? Okay, so the Bureau of Labor Statistics just came out with their latest numbers, and they said the average retiree spends about $4,600 a month. Let's call it $5,000 just for easy math, okay?
$60,000 a year.
$60,000 a year. And for a couple, almost half of that might come from Social Security. That's okay. But 80% of that money, according to the stats, is spent on housing, transportation, and food. They don't say anything about taxes, health care. They didn't even put anything in there for fun. And so I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, if their income's $60,000 a year, they're missing health care, miscellaneous fund, taxes. That's another $1,000 a month all day long.
At least. So this is that process that you go through. And I hate to even use the dirty word budget because nobody likes the word budget. Do you actually have a budget and you look at somebody and say, this is your spending plan for retirement? What is the reaction with people? I don't like the idea of being on a budget. I can't imagine a lot of people do.
So people call it budgets. You've been on budget your whole entire life till you retire. I call it a spending plan. Okay. You've lived your whole life on a budget. I'm not going to put you on a budget in retirement. And this is why we call it a spending plan. Because I want to know, what has your budget been? And then how much more can we really spend the last 30, 35 years while we're in retirement? So we have some fun with it. And when we build out what your wishes, hopes, and dreams are, and then the budget you're used to being on because you have bills you got to pay every month, we really start to work that spending plan to the best of its ability, basically, when we build the income plan. Because we really want to front load your go-go years. Your first 10 years are your healthiest in retirement, and then say, hey, if we could pull back the reins a little bit, and now you are a little bit more on a budget. We don't call it a budget because we still want to go travel and do things, but maybe at a different level or a little less money because, body parts start to hurt and you don't want to do as much. That build out in your plan is incredibly important, but we call it a spending plan because I want you to spend as much money as possible. And some people, I always ask this question, everybody's trained, the advisors are trained to ask this question. Do you want to spend your last dollar on your last breath, or do you want to leave a legacy? And I'm going to tell you, 50% of the people say spend my last dollar on my last breath. Really? So we can have some fun. And the other 50% are, I want to leave a legacy, but I don't want to leave that big of a legacy because when we build the income plan, sometimes there's $2 and $3 million 30 years down the road. And they're like, I don't want to leave that much money. And we're also not putting in, what if you go into a nursing home, got to spend $500,000 of it, of course, but still people want to make sure there's money there for nursing home care. They want to make sure there's money for their heirs. Some people do not. Then some people come in and say, Sharice, I'm 60. I'm only going to live 20 years. So I want to spend my money in 20 years. I went, no, we're not doing that. Spend all your money in 20 years. What if you live 25, right? What if you live 30? I'm like, can we have a happy medium? So we have to work that plan out, but we don't want to put anybody on a budget. This is your time to have an exciting career in retirement, meaning not working and just plan and honeydew lists and gardening and cruising. I just had a client that says, hey, we're doing the river cruise and we're going to Egypt, going down the Nile. I'm like, I didn't even know they had one in Egypt. I said, that is so cool. And that wasn't part of our plan, but we had the cash flow to do it because we re-looked at their income plan and we were able to do it. And so it's so much fun to be able to do that. How much can you spend? And sometimes every year we're kind of changing your spending plan depending on a few other elements.
You're listening to Retirement Coffee Talk with Sharice Rivers at Zinnia Wealth. Online, ZinniaWealth.com, ZINNIA Wealth.com. And I think that we all want to know what we can spend in our retirement years, but I don't want to be constricted by a budget. I was hitting golf balls the other day. You know me, I'm always golf. And I'm hitting golf balls the other day, and there's a guy who's right near me at the driving range, and he's with a bunch of friends, and he was explaining to them the trip they had just made to Italy. And he took his dad and his mom, and he took his wife, and he took a couple kids, and they all went to Italy. And he was telling me, you know, we flew on Turkish Airlines, and we flew in business class, and we went to Pisa, and we went to all of the sites in Italy, and we did all this kind of stuff. And he said, I think at the end it was like $25,000 or $30,000. And I thought to myself, 6, 8 people, and they were gone for a couple of weeks. That didn't seem so bad, and it seemed like, that's actually within reach. If it was a lifetime thing that you wanted to do and bring the family over to Europe, it was doable. And it was within his budget. It was within his retirement means. And he was just all these memories he was talking about. And I'm just sitting there listening, and I'm going, this is what retirement's supposed to be.
It is, Randy. And some of the coolest things you can do in retirement is pay for your family to do trips with you, your grandkids, your kids, mom and dad, if they're still alive, because it's about creating memories, and memories don't stop, right? You keep creating them, because when you're on your deathbed, the only thing that's going to count, it's not your Edward Jones statement and how much you saved. It is the memories and the people there still with you.
Exactly right. And that's what you want to build in retirement. I want you to think about it that way. Yes, money is important. Yes, money powers all the stuff that we do. But you know what? That money that you have saved all these years will also power those memories that you're going to make over the next 20, 25 years with your kids and your grandchildren, and just all those trips that you can take. Let's sit down and make that possible. Let's sit down and find the money for that. You've been working so hard. Give us a call at Zinnia Wealth. Let's build that kind of a plan for you. 833-368-3680. Again, 833-368-3680, or online at ZinniaWealth.com, ZINNIA Wealth.com. And there's a gold box there. It says complimentary retirement consultation. All right, Sharice, before the year flipped, you and I were talking through November and December about how important it was to have a conversation about taxes before the end of the year. A certain amount of windows close on December 31st. Well, that's passed now. And, we had an up year in the stock market, and the whole business of tax loss harvesting might not have worked out for you because we didn't have a whole lot of losses last year. So now comes a new kind of meeting. It's a brand new year. It's a retirement meeting. It's a tax meeting. What is going on right now? What will be the topics that you will talk to people about who are getting ready for retirement? Not quite there yet, but what are we going to do about taxes this year and in the following years? What's that conversation look like?
So 2026 tax planning conversations are going to look a little different probably than 2025. 2025, we do tax loss harvesting for our clients, but our clients didn't take losses. So we couldn't do much tax loss harvesting, even though we do that. It means you sell some winners, some losers. But when everything's winning, you can't do it, right?
Right.
So, for this year, we're using more of a bonus depreciation strategy for our clients. If they were going to put cash into something like that and get, a 5-to-1 write-off potentially. So we'll have those conversations. But some of the simple conversations are, we're going to keep doing tax loss harvesting and taking advantage of that this year. But if it's a booming year and we don't have losses, and again, that could be another year where we can't do much tax loss harvesting, but there's other things you can do, right? We can contribute to a Roth IRA. Listen, for 2025, you can still contribute to a Roth IRA up until April 15th for the year of 2025. A lot of people don't realize that, but there's some income limit. So if you're single, your modified adjusted gross income is over $168,000. You cannot contribute to a Roth. And if you're filing married jointly, if you have a modified adjusted gross income over $252,000, you cannot contribute to a Roth. But anything underneath that, you can. And for 2025, it's $7,000 if you're under 50 and $8,000 if you're over 50. But for 2026, you can contribute for 2025 this year, and you can go ahead and contribute to 2026 if you want, because the contribution limits did go up. If you're under 50, it's $7,500, and over 50, it's $8,600. So those are some things that sometimes it really works out for people, whether you're still working or as long as you have some W-2 wages, you can contribute to a Roth. But we're also continuing that ongoing conversation, and this is a big part of what we do, is how much money should we roll from our IRAs over to a Roth? Because you might say, Sharice, I'm retired. I don't have W-2 income. How can I have a Roth or add more money to a Roth? Well, we can roll IRAs to your Roth IRA. You got to pay the tax bill. But the beautiful thing is we're going to show you, does it actually make sense for your household and what you want to do over the next 30 to 40 years? And it's a beautiful sheet that we're going to show you. Hey, if we roll $10,000 a year for the next 5 years, if we roll $100,000 a year for the next 4 years, if we roll $50,000 for the next 2 years, what does it look like? What is the outcome in 30 years? What's the projection? Does it even make sense? And for some people, hey, you might say, hey, I'll let my kids deal with the tax plan. Then you don't need to do that. If you say, hey, I want my kids and my family members to not have a big tax bill when we pass away, well, then something to work on. And I will tell you, over 30 years, the math says whether you pay taxes on this IRA over the next 30 years by rolling IRAs over to Roth, or you just take your required minimum distributions every year, which you have to by law when you're 73 or older, it almost comes out to the same taxes. But the difference is that if you don't do the IRA conversion to the Roth, now your heirs, the people who benefit from your wealth, they pay an even bigger tax bill, right? Where they could pay a zero tax bill if you were to convert, which is really interesting. So our math is going to show this to you in a very simplified manner. And it doesn't mean you have to go with it, but hey, wouldn't you like to know, hey, does this make sense for us or not? We're doing a free consultation on it. We and the team love doing it as part of our holistic planning and all the things that we do. So those are just some of the small things that we're doing, right? And charitable gifting, we can still continue charitable gifting to 501c3s and churches, et cetera, which helps with a write-off, because if you're doing standard deduction and you write a check to a charity or church, you can't write it off. So if you are 70 and older, 70 and a half and older, we can do a qualified charitable distribution on dollars that you were about to be taxed on anyway. So there's a lot to think about there. And I know I probably gave everybody a mouthful. You're just like, I'm drinking through a fire hose right now. Sharice, what did you just say? That's why you want to work with us, because we do more than just income planning, investment planning, and Medicare planning. We do tax planning.
One thing I'm interested in is this new year now, because the big, beautiful bill, if I'm not mistaken, is retroactive to the beginning of 2025. So we're going to see that show up on our taxes this year. Mm-hmm. One of the things, if you're 65 and older, you're going to get a $6,000 deduction. Now, do you think that $6,000 deduction per person, that seems like a lot, $12,000 per couple. Yeah. Do you think that could make a difference between somebody who had to write a check every year and then now all of a sudden might get a rebate? Is that possible?
So let me clarify this. So you're not getting a $6,000 deduction. If you're 65 and older and you're collecting Social Security and your income is under $150,000, the government says per spouse that's collecting Social Security, you get the $6,000 deduction per person.
Right.
And yes, people are going to be getting refunds, and or if you have high incomes, you're going to be paying less in taxes. Mm-hmm. And yes, not everybody is going to be able to use this full $6,000, and or if you're married filing jointly, $12,000, because you won't have it to write off against, because maybe you didn't have enough to write off. So it's all wasted. So this is why you want to take advantage of rolling IRAs over to a Roth now, because there's no better time than the present to take advantage of this movement, because it's only going to last for 3 years or so, and then it phases out. So you might be getting this write-off that you can't even use because you don't have enough dollars to use it up against, if you know what I mean, if you're especially doing that standard deduction.
So you have to be taking Social Security in order to get that deduction. That's good information. Okay.
Yes.
Well, there's a lot to talk about for sure. I mean, this is the time of year you start thinking about taxes, because you got to get that done, and you start thinking about your finances, you start thinking about your retirement. Why don't we get this all together in one meeting? Give Charisse a call. 833-368-3680. 833-368-3680, or online, zinniawealth.com. Click on that gold box there. It says complimentary retirement consultation. It's a no-cost, no-obligation meeting to talk about your retirement and get your questions answered. Again, zinniawealth.com. So if you sat down with Charisse or any financial advisor, what would be your first question? Well, I found a study, and it said here are the top 4 things people are asking right now. I want to square this against what Charisse is seeing. Okay, number 1, am I protected from a downturn? If the market goes south, am I protected? That's number 1. Number 2, what do I need to do to outpace inflation if that rears its ugly head again? Number 3, am I going to meet my goals? What kind of goals do you have? That's interesting. And how do I preserve and pass on what I've built? So those are the big 4. Charisse, when you look at that, does that square with what you see? And are we missing anything? Are there common questions that people ask that aren't on this list?
You know, I would say these are common retirement questions. You know, the downturn, am I protected from the downturn? You know, I will admit this. A lot of people don't come in saying, hey, Charisse, I want to be protected from the downturn. You know what they end up saying? Hey, you know, I want a nice average. I want to average 6 to 10%. But they don't talk about being protected from the downturn. We actually have to bring that into the conversation and ask those questions. Hey, if you have $1 million and you lose 10%, can you handle it mentally, emotionally, and financially? And most people say yes, but then I say, well, that 10% equals 100 grand. They're like, no, Charisse, if you lose me 10%,
You're fired.
I didn't put it together, but I didn't know that 10% meant $100,000. I was like, yeah, because 10% happen all day long, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, well, you know, what happens when a real downturn comes and you lose 30% and your $1 million just lost 300,000? They're like, you're fired. Right. And so we ask those questions. We want to make sure we are in line with our clients' goals and that we do put them in the asset allocation and the different strategies than, you know, a really risky investor would be. So they're not asking me those questions. We have to actually dig in and ask those questions, but they are asking, hey, how do you outpace inflation, Charisse? And am I going to meet my goals? They don't ask me about, am I going to meet my goals? I think because we're already tackling that through our educational process, through their first and second appointment, and showing them, hey, these are your wishes. Here are our goals and how we're going to get you there. So they never have to ask us that question, but I can see how people are asking that question because a lot of advisors don't do that. And how do I preserve and pass on what I built, right? People don't say, how do I preserve and pass on? They just said, hey, I want to make sure this $2 million is at least $2 million in 30 years. It's another way of saying it. How do we do that, right? And we do that through tax planning. We do that through investment planning and preservation strategies because it's all about income. Income makes the world go round. So we got to give you your income checks. We want to focus on protection strategies. That's the number 2 phase of Zinnia Wealth Management. And then the growth strategy, right? How do we build growth at the same time? So there's a lot of pieces that go into it. And it's more of an educational process here. And I think we teach what sequence of returns are all about. And most people have never heard this or seen this on paper. They're like, oh, wow, didn't know about that. But that's something we need to worry about. So our educational process really walks people through this stuff. But I can imagine like people are asking those big questions. Inflation, that's always a big one. We want to beat inflation. And everybody's asked that question. So that's normal. But all these other questions aren't normal for us. But I can understand why it's normal for everybody else.
Well, you've probably got your own questions, and maybe they fit right in with these, or maybe you've got some of your own unique questions that you want to have answered. And that's really why we have this show, and is to say, let us use Charisse as a resource and have that meeting. Start off and just find out if you're a good fit and get your questions out on the table. What if taxes go up? What if Social Security goes down? What if I get sick? My mom had memory problems. What if I start having memory problems? What are we going to do? And what's that going to do to my spouse? There's so many. Let's get them out. I think that's why people have so much anxiety over retirement, because there's so many questions out there and there's so many variables. Let's take as many variables as we can off the table. 833-368-3680 is the number. Get a date on a calendar. Let's sit down and talk with Charisse on the nuts and bolts of your retirement. 833-368-3680 or the website ZinniaWealth.com, ZINNIA Wealth.com. There's a gold box there. It says complimentary retirement consultation. Click on that. You'll be on your way. All right. So a woman writes into the MSN Ask the Advisor column, and she says she waited until 70 to take Social Security, and it was the worst retirement decision of her life. She's getting a check now for $5,000 a month, which is fantastic, but it came at a cost. Here's what she wrote. The problem is that life isn't lived in monthly installments. I spent years telling myself that I was being responsible by waiting, watching my friends travel and enjoy their early retirement while I kept working. Sure, my check is bigger now, but at what cost? The money I'm finally getting now can't buy back the health and the energy I had in my 60s. What can we learn from her story? Boy, that is so
good.
True. So true.
My gosh. I've seen that so many times early in my career. I've been doing this for 20 years now, and I had to learn this. I didn't know this. It just started happening. And after 10 years in my career, I started seeing people get older and then not have the health to spend their money because we were so worried about making sure we had enough. And I learned, I'm like, that's not what retirement's all about. So the last 10 years is where we really had this turning point with all of our clients. And like, no, let's spend our money now. Let's not wait till 70 to take Social Security. We used to be that advisory firm that we'd wait till 70 to take Social Security. But to be honest, there was also Social Security strategies. So we're still collecting and then turning on the normal amount at a later date. But nowadays, those aren't even here. Like, I think I have 1 out of 100 people that walk into the doors that we're actually waiting to age 70, depending on how much they have saved, of course, and what the tax strategy is going to be. But so many people, Randy, over and over and over again, I hear that story, and it saddens me with especially those first timers that come in and see us, and they are already 70. They've already missed a part of their life and what they should have been doing 10 or 5 years prior. And when you hit 75, it's a wake up call. You guys, so many of my clients right now are turning 75 and they're so thankful. They're like, Charisse, thank God you started having to spend money early on, because you didn't tell me about this phase of life when I turned 75 where things hurt more and I don't want to do as much. And I don't feel like I'm all there, meaning I do skip a beat once in a while, Charisse. The senior moments are real things. And now I need to make sure you're really on top of your game, Charisse, because I need you more than ever now that I'm 75. I have heard that over and over and over and over again. That was a 2025 saying. And I've never really heard that in my life. I went, oh my gosh. I was like, I am very valuable all of a sudden, even more so than before. And it just gives people peace of mind knowing that we're still working with them 5, 10, 20 years later, and we're still here. And now that they need more help as they age into this new season of life of 75 years old, like this is an age that I'm feeling for my clients for the first time in my own life. And so, yeah, I can understand why this young lady who's in her 70s waited to take Social Security. Now she's kind of missed this movement where she had all the energy in the world. And now we're turning 70. It's another season of life. But boy, oh boy, when you turn 75, it's a whole nother game. And then there comes 80, right? So let's work up a plan where you're not waiting to age 70 to collect your Social Security, or you're having to work to age 70. I don't want that for anybody. You better love your job and not want to quit because it's so good to you that this is your thing. And there's 1 out of, I would say, probably 50 people out there we bump into. They love it and they want to keep doing it. But let's see if we can get you retired earlier do the math. Can you retire sooner than planned? Whether you're 65 or you're 60 or you're 55, maybe you're 50 and you want, hey, Sharice, I want to retire in a couple of years. I get what you're putting down, and even my own health is changing and some things have changed. Let's see if we can put pen to paper, work the income plan, figure out the tax plan, and see if we can solve this equation and get you all retired earlier. That is like my end all goal. Can we retire you earlier? And how much more can we spend early on?
Well, that is the goal, and let's do the math on your retirement. Let's get it done as soon as possible. 833-368-3680 for a no-cost, no-obligation meeting. We call it a complimentary retirement consultation. You'll actually see that on our website, too, under a gold box there at zinniawealth.com, ZINNIA wealth.com. Let's get that meeting on the calendar as soon as possible and find out what your aspects are for retirement. Maybe you can retire early. Wouldn't that be a great day to find out that at the meeting? 833-368-3680. Sharice, that is all the time we have on this one. I'll give you the last word.
Well, thank you all for tuning in. As usual, live by design and not by default, and we'll see you here next week.
This has been Retirement Coffee Talk. To find out more about how the strategies we've discussed on this program can build the retirement you've been wanting, call Zinnia Wealth at 352-368-3680 or visit us online at zinniawealth.com.
Investment advisory services offered through Zinnia Wealth Advisory, LLC, a registered investment advisor. The firm only conducts business in states where it is properly registered or is excluded from registration requirements. Registration is not an endorsement of the firm by securities regulators and does not mean the advisor has achieved a specific level of skill or ability. Insurance products are offered through Zinnia Wealth Management, LLC, Florida license L078655, and Sharice Rivers, Florida license P037744. Zinnia Wealth Advisory, LLC, and Zinnia Wealth Management, LLC are affiliated entities. The information presented is believed to be current. It should not be viewed as personalized investment advice. All expressions of opinion reflect the judgment of the presenter on the date of the podcast and are subject to change. The information presented is not an offer to buy or sell or a solicitation of any offer to buy or sell any of the securities discussed. You should consult with a professional advisor before implementing any of the strategies discussed. Any legal or tax information provided in this podcast is general in nature. Always consult an attorney or tax professional regarding your specific legal or tax situation. Any client experience discussed on this show are unique to that client. Annuity and life insurance guarantees are subject to the claims paying ability of the issuing insurance company. If you withdraw money from or surrender your contract within a certain time after investing, the insurance company may assess a surrender charge. Withdrawals may be subject to tax penalties and income taxes. Persons selling annuities or other insurance products receive compensation for these transactions. These commissions are separate and distinct from fees charged for advisory services. Insurance products also contain additional fees and expenses. Social Security rules and regulations are subject to change at any time. Always consult with your local Social Security office before acting upon any information provided herein. References to specific investments should not be construed as being past specific recommendations. The returns for various indices discussed in this podcast do not represent the performance of the firm or any of its advisory clients. Returns do not reflect the impact that advisory fees will have on an investment. Past performance may not be indicative of future results. All investment strategies have potential for profit or loss. Different types of investments involve higher and lower levels of risk. There is no guarantee that a specific investment strategy will be suitable or profitable for an investor's portfolio. Historical performance returns for investment indexes and or categories usually do not deduct transaction and or custodial charges or advisory fees, which would decrease historical performance results. There are no guarantees that a portfolio will match or outperform a specific benchmark. Investments in fixed income products are subject to liquidity risk, market risk, index rate risk, credit risk, inflation risk, purchasing power risk, and taxation risk. Because bond prices fluctuate continually, their yields change constantly.